Let's talk about notes and rest value. They both represent time, although notes represent sound and rest represents silence. But they all last certain amount of beats or certain amount of time. So this is why they relate to each other. Let's start with the longest one that we will use for right now. The longest note will be called whole note. Whole note looks like just a note head. There are no stems or flags here, only note head. Such note will represent 4 beats or 4 clicks of your metronome. Now, we also have a rest that represents same amount of time, but of a silence. So in this case, our whole rest will look like a brick that's placed under 4th line of our staff. Looks like that. So right now, both of them represent 4 beats or 4 clicks of a metronome, but of a different type of a click, right? So here we've got sound and here we've got silence. Now, we also have a half note. Half note look like a whole note, which means note head not filled out yet, but we need to add a stem in order to call that half note. Such note will represent 2 beats of a metronome, or it's equal to 2 clicks. Now, we also have a half rest, and a half rest will look like a whole rest as well, but it will be placed lower, it will be placed above middle line of a staff. So it looks like that. Now, the last note we have that's beat or longer than a beat will be called quarter note. Quarter note will look like a half note, although note head should be filled out. Such note will be equal to 1 beat. We also have quarter rest that's equal to 1 beat as well. Both of them representing 1 beat or 1 click of a metronome. Again, depending on time signature, they may take several clicks of a metronome or being only part of a click. But right now we try to establish relation between them. So this is why we have a whole note that's equal to 4, or in most common time signature, 4/4, it occupies an entire measure. Same as a whole rest. Then we have a half note that's equal to 2 beats, or half rest as well, will occupy 2 beats, but of a silence. And now we have a quarter note and quarter rest. They are equal to 1 beat. Here we go. Now notes that are shorter than a beat. First note that's shorter than a beat will look like a quarter note, but right now, in order to represent the new note value, we need to add what's called flag. Such note is called an eighth note. Eighth note will be equal to only 1/2 of a beat, or half of your click of a metronome. Of course, we have an eighth rest. Eighth rest look like that. They both right now equal to only half of a click of a metronome, which means you have 2 of them in a 1/4 note or rest. Then we have one more that's shorter, and it's called 16th. Look like an eighth. But right now, in order to establish 16th note value, we need to add one additional flag. And this is 16th note. Such note will be equal to only 1/4 of a beat. Of course, we have 16th rest. And that rest will look like your 8th note rest, but with 2 curvatures on 2 middle spaces. So right now, you can divide all notes that you see right here in 2 groups. One group, notes that are longer than a beat or equal to a beat, and notes that are shorter than a beat or faster. So in our music theory, in contemporary music theory, we still use notes that are even shorter than notes of our 8th notes and 16th notes. But we're not going to talk about them right now. You would learn them later. Right now, in order to avoid any confusion, we will not cover 32nd, 64th notes. We will cover only whole notes, half notes, quarter notes, 8th notes, and 16th notes. So, as far as you see, these notes relate to each other. Every note that goes next will be nothing else as a note that's twice shorter than the previous one. Same will relate to rests as well. From that point, if whole note and rest equal to 4 beats, now half one equal to only 2. If half note equals to 2, the next one, which is quarter, equals to only 1. Then if quarter note or rest equal to 1 beat, eighth note and rest will be equal to only half of it. And if eighth note and rest equal to a half of a beat, then 16th note and rest will be equal to a quarter of it. So we see absolutely clear relation between notes. Every next value will be twice shorter. Remember, note values are not representing speed that much, they're representing sustain, which means how long that note will ring after you play that note. So same thing is about your rest, except rest representing silence, which means how long you would stay silent before you play next note. This is your notes values.